Hey everyone, this is Howley Hawk, aka Danahawk 10, and I've got an awful lot of information to cover, and since I'm not an actor, I don't have the kind of memory to be able to memorize all of this. So I put it down in writing so that I can keep it all straight, and I promise you that if there's an opening in a movie anytime soon, I won't apply. Okay, as most of you know by now, there's been some trouble over at the Watchmen FM. There's been some questions and concerns raised surrounding many aspects of what went on there. And though I can't answer all the questions, the intent of this video is to at least address some of them. And I've invited a special guest to join us today, the physical evidence. It seems that all hell has broken loose at the Watchmen radio network, and it seems some terrible things have befallen Doc, apparently leading him to fall off the deep end. All properties in question have returned to their rightful owner, Joe Northpal. John Galt, Bobby from Just Measure's Coin Shop, and Cope Reynolds have been accused of attempting to steal the Watchmen radio network. John, Bobby, and Cope are also the only unified group within the controversy, and have erected their own radio station. Tina Sullivan and Eric Lovely have been accused of conspiring along with John, Bobby, and Cope to steal the Watchmen radio network. In a separate issue, Tina has self-confirmed making a call to the local authorities upon witnessing via the telephone spousal abuse. Eric Lovely and Dan Howley have been accused of calling the authorities in an attack on Doc. Joe Northpal has been instrumental in acquiring evidence throughout all of this, and so far as we know has not been seriously accused of anything. Bob and Bob will be covered at a later time if necessary. The documents that I will be presenting are a representation of the original documents that I have received. There have been many accusations and many different scenarios thrown out there throughout this entire docudrama. Do I believe something underhanded was attempted at the Watchmen Radio Network? Yes, I do. Could that underhandedness attempted at the Watchmen Radio Network be what John, Cope, and Bobby have been accused of? Perhaps. Was Tina, Eric, Lovely, or myself involved with or connected to what allegedly transpired there? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. Let's review, shall we? Fact number one. Bobby and Cope wanted to fire Eric Lovely from the Watchmen Radio Network. Fact number two. Doc and Joe Northpal said no to their demands concerning Eric. Fact number three. Doc has accused Eric Lovely of conspiring with John, Cope, Bobby, the same three that wanted Eric fired, in an attempt to help them steal the Watchmen Radio Network from Doc. Now let's make a mental note. In order to make fact 3 anywhere near in the realm of reasonably accurate, one must minimize, alter, or just disregard altogether facts 1 and 2. If one considers facts 1 and 2, well, fact 3 is rendered ridiculous at best. Bottom line, fact 3 is a direct contradiction to facts 1 and 2. And since 1 and 2 have been confirmed and proven by Doc's own statement and Northpal's emails to me, and fact 3 has no physical evidence to back it up, well, which facts hold more weight? Alright, moving on. Fact number 4. Doc has accused Tina Sullivan of conspiring with John, Cope, and Bobby in an attempt to help them steal the Watchmen Radio Network from Doc. Now let's talk about this Tina thing for a moment, shall we? Tina has already admitted to calling the authorities. She made the call based upon what she witnessed on the phone. Tina's never given me cause to disbelieve whatever we've discussed in the past, so I believe her. And since she acted upon what she witnessed, then she had an obligation to call. Perhaps some of us might feel differently if it was our sister on the other end of the phone being attacked. And since none of us were on the other end of that phone call, then we have a he said, she said argument, and normally we tend to just toss out he said, she said arguments as nonsense. Another bit of nonsense is this: Tina conspired with John, Bobby, and Cope to steal the Watchmen. Are you kidding me? With the possible exception of Joe Northpal, no one has worked harder than Tina Sullivan has on the behalf of the Watchmen. She's in no way connected to John, Bobby, and Cope. She's not at their station. She's not working with Doc, Joe, or Eric, for that matter, on any project associated with anyone previously connected with the Watchmen. So far, all I've heard is unsubstantiated accusations with no evidence to back them up whatsoever. Are we individuals that research for evidence to back up the info we discover on the internet? Or are we gossips that'll just believe something just because that's what we want to believe? Fact number 5. Allegedly, 2 phone calls were placed to 2 different law enforcement agencies, one from Texas and the other from Durango, Colorado. Fact number 6. One of the calls placed, the second call, did originate from Texas. Tina has stood up and taken responsibility for placing that call. Fact number 7. Although he vehemently lies about placing the first call, in the first place, it has been proven by his own admission that Cope Reynolds placed that call to local law enforcement. Fact number 8. On 2 separate entries, Cope Reynolds attempted to establish an alibi when one was not needed. Well, let's make another mental note here. Why would Cope attempt to establish an alibi when one wasn't needed? After all, I mean, no one had accused Cope of making his call from Durango, Colorado, had they? Fact number 9. In a Skype conversation with Tina, Bobby from Just Measures Coin Shop revealed, for the record, Cope did not give his real name. What he did was great. Okay, let's make another mental note. If Cope didn't use his real name, well, whose name did he use? Fact number 10. In the same Skype conversation with Tina, Bobby also discloses, all this will be gone soon. I expect the fight to be with North Pal, Eric, and Doc. And that will leave the rest of us alone. Another mental note. So Bobby knew that Cope had made that call, and he knew that Cope had not used his real name. Since facts 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 appear to be linked, let's ask ourselves the following questions. Did Cope lie by denying that he placed that call in the first place? Seeing as how the physical evidence clearly and undeniably confirms that he did in fact make the call, I'd have to say yes. It's also been confirmed that Cope wasn't even honest enough to use his real name when placing the call he claimed not to make. With that in mind, is Cope's word reliable enough to take at face value any longer? I'm going with not. And when you toss in Cope's comments about the call coming from Durango when he knew full well that it had not, let's backtrack to fact number 8 for a moment, shall we? In fact 8, we remember that in 2 separate entries, Cope attempted to establish an alibi when one wasn't needed. In one, Cope claims that Bob and himself were nowhere near those places, and no one said they were. In the other, Cope claims to have been in Washington at the time. Was he? Seems to me that if Cope placed that call, as has been proven, it would have been rather difficult to convince dispatch that the Washington prefix he would have been dialing from if he was in Washington actually belonged to the Durango, Colorado area, and a Washington prefix has never been mentioned. Now let's review the facts and consider the evidence that we've seen with our own eyes up to this point. John, Bobby, and Cope wanted to fire Eric. Doc and North Pal said no. Doc has accused Eric of conspiring with those that wanted to fire Eric. Doc has accused Tina of conspiring with the same group. 2 calls were placed, one from Tina, one from Cope. Cope denied making the call. Cope attempted to create an alibi when one was not necessary. Bobby reveals that Cope did not use his real name. Bobby further discloses that the fight will be between Doc, Joe, North Pal, and Eric. Up to this point, the evidence, and just plain common sense, has established that Tina Sullivan was not connected to any conspiracy of any sort, and that Doc and Joe North Pal would not give John, Bobby, and Cope what they wanted, to fire Eric. The evidence has also established that John, Bobby, and Cope considered Eric Lovely a thorn in their side. Now add in Bobby's statement in Skype about the fight between being Doc Northpal and Eric, the two that said no to them, and the pain in their side, almost as if Bobby knew something the rest of us didn't. I think we can see that if we leave the physical evidence as it presents itself and not alter it in any way, we can clearly see that the evidence leads us further and further away from some conspiracy theory or wild accusation about Eric Lovely being involved with these three individuals. It just doesn't make any sense. However, if one wished to alter, minimize, and ignore the evidence, well, I dare say one could conceivably make what's left of the evidence appear to say whatever one wanted it to say.